Pop culture, that's today's topic. This was one requested by a lot of people, and we think it's very relevant, so we're really looking forward to this talk. My name is Justine.
Rafaela.
Michael.
Karen.
Sophia.
Theo.
And don't forget to follow us on our socials. Our handle on Instagram is sinners.anonymous, and everything is linked in our bio.
All right. So, pop culture, media, fake news. We're here to talk about all of that. It's an interesting thing with pop culture. Media is probably one of the most powerful tools that exists in our present day. And when you're critiquing media, it's usually about politics or, the media's ability to decide what is real, what is not, or maybe some of the media's ability to kind of decide what is right and what is wrong. But we want to talk about something slightly different. How is media being used to be subversive against the will of God? That's really what we want to focus on, because in the end, nothing else really matters. And the reason why media is so powerful is suggestion, or the ability to control people's thoughts, or the ability to control people's emotions even more powerfully, are very powerful forces that the media has created very specific tools that do a very good job of doing just that, which is controlling our outlook, our belief systems, our feelings. And most of the time we don't realize it. In fact, the power in these tools lies in the fact that they are completely, for the most part, not conscious. We are not conscious of the effect these things have on us. And this is not just a conversation on social media, even though social media is probably the greatest example of this. It is a conversation on stars and celebrity status and the media that we consume, whether it's Netflix or TV or movies. All of this, whether we want to admit it or not, has a great impact on our development. And it starts at a very, very young age for the vast majority of us. Even if we have parents who are very conservative and keep their kids away from these things early on, at some point you got to go to school. And when you go to school, you're going to be exposed to it in a secondary form. And then eventually your parents can't do anything about it. Whether you have a phone or a laptop or a PC or whatever it is, eventually you're going to become part of this machine. And so what we want to talk about today is, how does this affect us negatively and positively? How do we become more aware? And more importantly, how do we use media in general to bring us closer to Christ rather than further away? And the answers to that are not as easy as you think, as we found out when we were talking about it. With that in mind, we're going to go ahead and kick it off. Ladies and gentlemen, what is your opinion on the media today? And how does it have a hold or an effect on us? What do y'all think?
Well, it's interesting because when you look at the origin of media, it was kind of, TV, radio back in the day when it would deliver news. And then more news networks started developing. And then you have TV shows that came on for entertainment. And then you had reality shows that came on for entertainment. And a lot of these things started rewiring or restructuring our ideologies or what we start viewing as goals in our life, whether if it's financial or social status or, physique goals.
What's physicals?
Body goals.
Physique goals. It's two words. I have physicals. I'm like, huh?
Oh, no. Like body image.
Right.
Body image goals, especially lately. I feel like that's been impacting the youth a lot. And so a lot of these things started becoming more of an influence. And like you said, Theo, subconsciously it's become, it started infiltrating the way that we have our views and our perspectives in life. And I think that's where it started originating from, was TV, radio, magazines, books, and so on. And then it even became so much more amplified when social media came about, with its ease of accessibility, its ease of access, how quickly you can get news and information.
And the immediate results that we feel in our brains, the chemicals that are released when someone likes our post or whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah. Like there was, I can't remember if it was a show or a research news article that I read about how they've actually noticed that there are increased levels of serotonin and dopamine, which are the happy neurotransmitters in our brain that are released whenever somebody likes a picture or comments on a picture. We feel more self-gratification or an increased self-worth. Validation whenever these things come about on social media. Yep. And sometimes people have started investing in who they are through social media. So they're looking through, like you said, Raphael, their validation through social media and not within ourselves. And imagine how much that has mentally impacted a lot of the teenagers who were unable to develop thoroughly before, they started depending on social media and other people validating them rather than them validating themselves.
Yeah, I think it's a fact that pop culture and social media have an effect on us. The majority of society has like an app like Instagram or Facebook. And I mean, it's not wrong to want to keep up with the news or the trends, but it's wrong if you like let that affect who you are as a person. So
I think that if you go back, like you were saying, to like I started with radio, and radio did have an effect on people. But the thing is that has made such a difference is the percentage of your time that is connected to all of this stuff. That it is very difficult to disconnect from it at this point. Like it used to be, okay, even TV wasn't on after midnight. Very few channels back in the day were on after midnight. And many of them would sign off at around like 10 o'clock at night. And so initially you could disconnect. It was, okay, this is the time that you listen to this. You got your news from the radio or from the newspapers. And they did give you a perspective and a worldview. And as you read it, you did wind up imbibing that worldview. But you had that.
For those of us that did not score well in the SATs, imbibing means
drinking from?
Drinking, okay.
So you're actually like, as if like you're drinking from a water fountain, you're drinking in the stuff. And sure, but then you had other sources where you would drink from as well. And it wasn't just that. And right now what's going on is more and more of our info is coming from the same sources. And then there's become more of we can curate what you see. And if you think about what Facebook was like maybe, 8 years ago, and what your news feed felt like 8 years ago, I remember having a conversation with my wife about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, my news feed is completely different from your news feed. Like, you're looking at pictures of your friends and your friends' kids, and most of what I'm getting is articles about this political thing or that science thing or this other thing. And I'm like, what's going on? And now both of our news feeds are exactly the same.
Are you guys familiar with TikTok and how like the algorithm works? Like it curates the person, like it curates what you're into on the app.
Yeah.
So
Instagram, I think, does the same, and Facebook.
Like interested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the algo is the new god, right? That's the name of the game.
Algo?
Algo.
It has a nickname.
Yeah, it's got a nickname. You got to get plugged in, sister. But yeah, no, the algorithm, as the world of YouTube and whatnot, social media in general call it has become the new god. It's all about pleasing the algo and, figuring out a way to get the right thumbnail and the right title and to get as many clicks as possible, right? It's a multi-billion-dollar business. And, a lot of people think that social media is free. It's not. They are buying and selling you, right? They are mining your data, your preferences, right? Like if you are on Instagram and you're looking at pictures of Instagram models, right? Guess what's going to be suggested to you the next time you log in? Because it's all about how often they can get your eyes on the screen, how long they can keep
literally eyes, not just clicking on things.
No, it's not. It's attention, it's watch time, right? So if you're looking at Kylie Lipkitz, right, guess what's going to get suggested to you? Jeffree Star stuff and all these other folks, right, that you may not be exposed to. And if you're a 12-year-old girl and you see Jeffree Star on your screen and you're like, wow, I really like his personality, guess what that might change in terms of your thoughts and beliefs on homosexuality. You see what happened there? You start off on makeup, and you end up, without even realizing it, subversively changing your opinion on homosexuality. Like one of the things that just drew me for an entire loop. Now, I'm an old guy, so I'll admit that. But when the Supreme Court released the whole thing about legal marriage,
decision, yeah.
I was very surprised to hear from people that I'm close to about all of the positive Facebook messages that our youth were posting about this. And I'm thinking to myself, what? You must be wrong. And then they showed me, and I'm like, how can these kids, the same kids that we've been teaching Sunday school, that we with from the very beginning, these very Coptic kids, how do they think this is a good thing? And then it just dawned on me that, we missed the boat. Like, we were sleeping at the wheel as a church, as parents, as servants. We totally did not think that they would fall for it. And because we slept at the wheel, because we weren't really there to explain these things, guess what? The media in general decided they're going to educate our kids for us. And they made them completely misunderstand. They completely skewed their morality, completely skewed their perception of things. And in the end, they got them to subscribe to a belief system that's counter to that which is God's, that which is holy. And it all happened with none of us even realizing, right? That's the power of media in general, not just social media. That's the power of media in general. And we can talk about how subversive that is in a second. But let's keep the scope pretty wide for now, and we can funnel it later. Let's talk about media in general. Sometimes, it's not just the social media, it's who our youth look up to, right? And Kim Kardashian is the easy target, so let's go with that. Like, she's very famous. A lot of girls think this is the epitome of beauty. A lot of guys think the same thing. Multi-billion-dollar clothes and makeup and appearance business. And we've got a lot of young women who are growing up thinking that this is the standard. And when they look in the mirror and they don't see that, they think something is wrong with them. And they think that in order to make up for it, they have to do these other things. And some of these things are absolutely unacceptable, and some of these things are just a waste of resources. But for the most part, they go against that which God has said, which is, I made you. I don't make mistakes. You're beautiful. You're perfect. The way I made you, right? And if you want to be more perfect, you want to be more beautiful, you want to be closer to the standard, the definition of femininity, the way God has said it, improve yourself, get closer to me, become more loving, become more self-serving, become more focused, love God with all your heart. This is what beauty is in the eyes of God. When you put that against what beauty is according to the standard that we've held, and I know it's easy to target Kim K, but we will. They're completely opposite. In fact, when you dig deeper in here, how did she get her status? Pornography. And yet we seem to forget that. And a whole generation of kids don't really realize that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, right? And they don't realize that this beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. No, it's not. Beauty is in the eyes of Christ. And God is very clear on what is acceptable, what is morally acceptable, and what isn't. And internal beauty is way more important than external beauty, but that's not the message being sent to our girls. And what happens? Depression, anxiety, suicide, self-harm, because of this negative influence that's happening in the media. Let's talk more about that. What do you guys think?
I think you kind of have to pull back a little bit and look at, why are people looking at other people to as a standard? Why are so, like, let's say, for example, why are teenage girls looking at female celebrities as a standard that they have to be like, copy, live up to, become? Essentially, they try to become these celebrities. And I think it's because they haven't developed that sense of wise discernment between what is important for them to grow in and what isn't. So because, and it may be a fault in our service and our ability to have our youth, boys and girls, appreciate themselves, value themselves, see the beauty within themselves. Sometimes if they're unable to develop that self-appreciation, they're going to want to see what society is valuing as self-appreciation and what society is valuing as important or beautiful or successful. And, that may just fall back on us as servants, on parents of teenage youth, that, maybe we haven't developed a right way to have our youth appreciate themselves. And when they don't do that, they don't see what God sees. They see what society sees. And when they're trying to look at what society sees, they're always going to be at a fault. They're never going to feel happy. They're never going to feel valued or worthy, basically.
Well, I'm going to throw a punch in the gut to both me and Theo. It all boils down to how your father sees you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that your father sees you as beautiful? Do you
like
feel
paternal
like
father,
yes.
or like Godfather?
Well, your paternal father, because often that's how we see our Heavenly Father. That many people have a hard time thinking that God loves them because they thought that their earthly father didn't love them. And so in the same way, do you feel like your father feels that you're beautiful? Does he make you, does he build you up, build up your self-esteem? Or is he absent from your life entirely? And I think that's part of what we've missed, is that we've had a few generations now where fathers have been missing, whether totally missing and not in that house at all, or just checked out because, hey, they're either busy with work or they just don't feel like the house is where they belong. Like they don't feel successful at home.
Or it's the mother's job.
Yeah. And it's just easier to let the mother fill in. Or then there's all the weird awkwardness of, well, she's a teenager now and I don't like, it feels awkward to tell her that she's beautiful. And you need to get over that. It's hard. It's easy for me to say because I haven't gotten there yet, but
You still have years ahead of you.
I mean, great points, and we should probably do a whole subject on it,
yeah.
right? But focusing on the subject of social media and media in general, let's talk to some folks that are not as old farts like you and I. What do you got? What do the three of you guys think?
So what I think is that I noticed based on Instagram, for example, like an algorithm where, let's say a girl posts something, for example, a religious post saying something meaningful and whatever she feels like is broadcasted in a way where it's faithful, compared to another girl that's in a bikini picture. She gets way more likes and more attention rather than something meaningful and should take on to life. So people would like to waste their time to do things rather to pay attention to something to distract them.
Yeah, a lot of us
yeah.
have experienced that
Mhm.
exactly. Like, I mean, I know I have, but you have a great point.
So I have a question. If you post something, because I haven't really noticed this, if you post something that's a political statement that is popular or that more of the media wants to push forward, is that also going to get the same number of likes as like a bikini picture, or no? Not even.
No. No, I think it comes down to like the reason why we look up to certain celebrities or certain people in the industry is because I think we just, like, as girls at least, we want to be accepted. You don't really want to be the odd man out. So if you see, like Sophia was saying, like if you see that the likes are coming for people that are wearing bikinis versus like a verse or a news post that you found interesting, then, you know, by habit you realize, okay, like if I want to be accepted, then I need to conform to those standards, or I need to do this in order to be accepted and to get the likes that I want. And so I think that's why this happens. And I guess that's also where like body image issues come from, is because all you see is like these edited and Photoshop pictures that are perfect, and then you're like, oh, I don't look like that, so there must be something wrong with me.
And that's something that people, like, it's happening to them, like, without them even realizing, like, especially in the younger generations, like,
Yeah.
Well, you know, where have we dropped the ball? You know, why is it that our youth are looking at, like you were saying, Karen, these other standards rather than looking at, you know, God made each one of us in his own image. Why do we not tell our youth, and why do we not realize that ourselves, that we are created in God's image? Each one of us were made, he knew us before we were born. You know, why do we not think about that? Why is it that, you know, we have missed the ball missed the mark when it comes down to that? And I think it comes down to a couple of reasons, one of which being that when you are surrounded by people who give you physical evidence that you are accepted in society or popular within society, you get that instant gratification rather than developing that relationship with God and having God fill you and receiving that gratification through God. And I think that's where sometimes people are just impatient to develop that relationship with God and receive that gratification through God and feeling full through God, versus, you know, people who look into other people to validate them. And it all comes down to, you know, like Jesus told the Samaritan woman, Those who drink from my water shall never thirst again. You know, those of us who drink of God's water or have God fill us, we should never thirst, aka, you know, want attention or have that feeling of being full and happy within ourselves.
I don't know about you, but I doubt that the vast majority of people, when they log into Instagram in the morning, they're going to Copt's Instagram to see, hey, what daily verse do you have today for me?
Some people do. I mean, there are.
I don't think the majority.
Not the majority. No,
there is no way it's the majority. The vast majority of people, they're not even thinking to look for God in social media. In fact, I have a feeling that if God actually had a social media post and was on all the Instagrams, he would not have as many likes as the Lakers or Kim Kardashian or whatever. And I think part of the problem with our generations is this. People just don't care about God. I don't think we've done a very, very good job of explaining to youth just why a relationship with Jesus Christ is a key, if not the most important, focus or relationship they should have. And I think that what we've done is allowed them to kind of fall prey to the social current of our culture, where there is no place for God in it. And if you were to sit there and say, Jesus is going to fill you up, and if you drink of the everlasting water, you and I and everyone at this table is going to get it, I doubt the vast majority of people will. The vast majority of youth will. So I think part of the problem is the very basics aren't there. In fact, if the basics were there, if people really understood these things, then the grasp or the throttling that social media is doing to a lot of these folks, it just wouldn't be the case, because it just wouldn't have the power over them. So I guess for me is, I understand the problem. I agree that's the problem, and I understand the solution. Yeah, I agree that's the solution. But how do we get them there? How do we get people to realize what really matters in this life?
I actually have to disagree. I don't think that is the problem or the solution. Because even those of us that understand that and know in our heads that we have to get filled with living water, we still don't do that. And even if we wake up in the morning and you open up your phone to look at, the SUS Cops or the verse of the day or whatever it is, the next thing you do is not going to be that. It's going to be something else that fills you back into the world. That we're constantly bombarded with the world, and we're constantly bombarded with other messages, and we're distracted so often that even if you may have an intention to be pure or to live a life that's focused on God, that's not where you're going to end up.
What do the rest of you guys think?
Well, you have a point, but I mean, to a certain extent, because social media and like that could be someone's outlet of their time off.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just, maybe not first thing when you wake up in the morning. That could be unhealthy.
What I think is that, let's see. So during for example, the pandemic, I feel like that made the biggest impact for us, because all of us were online,
Mm-hmm.
and we had nothing else to do but to check on the news or
Right.
whatever everyone's up to, because there's no social interaction, and to do things in person, or you have to stand 6 feet apart. But that's not the point. I'm just saying that it was more accessible to be more, accepted, whether you have any ideas or whatnot, because everyone was on it and active. Because beforehand, everyone was working and not really paying much attention. Yeah, they didn't have time. So now they have time to put all their attention into that. So I feel like that made an impact on how we view things based on religion or anything in general.
Yeah, I think,
culture.
yeah, I agree with you. Technology has also become very profitable, and that's one of the reasons why people are so addicted to it. And I think another reason is, Thea, you were saying people don't care about God. I think it's more of it's not a tangible relationship, if that makes sense. Not that the numbers on your Instagram are tangible, but it's something that you see and that you can be okay, I'm getting, 100 likes on my picture, so this is a good picture. Versus another picture I got 30 likes, okay, I'm gonna take this down. I feel like that's more concrete, you can see that, versus not everyone is willing to sit there and develop, Justine was saying, develop that relationship with God and kind of work out something that they can't really see, but they just have to believe in.
Trust.
I don't know if I'm getting my point across, but
I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Yeah. That the issue is that frequently the way that we act belies what our actual beliefs are. That we say we believe in the heavenly hosts, and we believe in God, and we believe that there's a spiritual realm, and we believe that the angels are praying for us, and that we have angels supporting us, and we say that all these things. But then the way that we act as if the only things that are real are the things that we can touch, the things that we can see, the number of likes that we can see, the interactions and the engagement that people have with our social media posts or with our like in-person stuff, and that those around us, that they like us, is easier to feel than to know that God loves us.
So here's one of the hardest things that anyone can do with themselves or for themselves is to be honest. And this is why our Lord says, I am the way, the truth, and the light. The truth is very important. And what the media does in general is it sells deception. And it's very good at selling deception. It wants to tell you that this is beauty and you are not. It wants to tell you that this is success, the car, the bag, the clothes. And what you're doing here is not trying to go about your business, trying to live your way according to God's word. That's not going to get you success. That's not going to get you money. It tries to tell you that popularity and self-worth are tied together. And God's way is very simple. Popularity doesn't matter. You know, whether you're doing right or you're doing wrong is determined by whether or not you live your life according to God's principles and God's will. That's right and wrong. Popularity has nothing to do with it. In fact, the Bible says the opposite. It says they're going to hate you. They're going to persecute you. There a time will come when right will be wrong and wrong will be right. And they will look at you and say, you're mad because you don't do what we do. When in reality, what they're doing is completely craziness. It's insanity. And what you're doing is correct. See, one of the most interesting things about media in general is it's built on deception. And what I find absolutely incredible is how quickly we are willing to buy these lies and make them our truths. But there's a problem here in the lexicon, in the word itself. Our truth. You do you, girl, right? This whole mentality, right? The red pill community amongst men and the female equivalent of it. All of these very powerful social constructs are all they might be against each other, but they have one thing in common. They are against God. And the reason why they are against God is because in order for them to have authority over us, they need to redefine and reevaluate all of the things that God has already defined and evaluated for us. And if they don't get you to believe in this very basic level of deception, this fake news, if you will, then they have no power over you, which means that your only alternative is to follow the way of God. And so they are very, very, very good, very adept at putting you to sleep and making you believe that what they're selling you is truth and the alternative is a lie. And the number one thing they're very good at selling you, the number one thing that they have to sell you first before they can sell you anything else, is that you are a good person and you can be a good Christian if you want, but you don't have to follow his way. And this is why I say people don't care about God. Because in their heart, they may think that they're Christians. Their actual actions might be going to church, might be reading the Bible, might be doing everything they're supposed to be doing. But they're lying to themselves. Because if God was really in their heart, if God was part of their lives, if they really believed that God was the way, the truth, and the light, their actions would bleed into their belief system. And it doesn't. What's the big deal if I look at this half-naked girl on Instagram? You know, she doesn't have an OnlyFans account. I could still subscribe. I could still like this photo. I'm not doing anything wrong. What's the big deal if I follow this influencer? I mean, so what? They have these weird things. They're pretty funny. They're entertaining. No big deal. I mean, I just want a few minutes of my time just laughing. So what if this person is against Christianity or says these weird things? What's the big deal if I were to, be part of this community, whether it's gaming or whatever, and it just sucks all this time out of my life, right? I need to have an outlet. This is productive. I can make money off of this. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? It's almost as if we've decided that we can define right from wrong and we don't need him. And so if we really let God in our hearts, if God really was inside of us and we were one with God, if we really cared about who Christ Jesus was and what his authority was, all of these things would melt away, because you cannot, in the face of truth, in the face of the light, you cannot speak or believe in deception. You cannot do things in the dark.
Yes, but who are you opening your ears to? If I feel like so often in this podcast we're going back to Genesis, when Eve listened to the serpent when he started talking to her. He had her at when he started asking her questions, and he started asking her and saying to her, "Did God say that you shouldn't eat of any of the fruits of any of the trees?" And he had her at that lie, that first lie, and she started listening. And this is what happens to us. And you're saying, yes, this is all these lies and all this deception. Well, where do you think all these lies and all this deception is coming from? Who's the father of lies? And it's an elaborate scheme that I think initially was created by some people and thought was for good, and things are often get subverted. And so are we listening? Do we have our ears and our hearts open to God, or do we have our ears and hearts open to these lies? And like you said, do we believe those lies about ourselves, that we're not worthy and that we're not beautiful, and all of these lies about ourselves that lead us to go wanting to get fulfilled in these other sources?
I think that's where it's important that this is where discernment comes in, mature discernment. The problem is a lot of the audience that drink and absorb social media and pop culture don't have that discernment. That's where it falls, that's where it goes down. And so how can we reach people and have them develop that discernment, that level of maturity of understanding what the truth is versus a lie before the world gets to them?
Does anyone still use the term guilty pleasure?
Yeah.
Or not anymore?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it almost feels like that was a thing that we would say, and it was like, oh, but it's my guilty pleasure, and you'd still do it.
Excusable.
You'd still do it anyway.
Yeah.
And now it feels like, oh well, yeah, I don't even need to label it as anything. It's okay.
What do you girls think? Because it's really important.
Yeah.
The three of us are except for Justine, are the older generation. But we'd like to get your opinion, because you grew up. You're Gen Z, so you grew up in this. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I've had a phone for like most of my life at this point. So, I've had so much access to like social media, and like I've seen it, and it's not like something that, now that I've experienced this, like it's not something that a young kid should have to go through at such a young age. And
Can you elaborate more on that?
Okay, well, having access to something like this, and like being so involved in social media at such a young age, that can create problems, like bullying, or just like body image, because you see all these things that like aren't true. Because like they could be edited, or you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. And it's deception, like it truly is. So I'm not saying that it should be like taken away from kids, or but maybe like monitored in a sense, because
Yeah, but it's a major issue. I was bullied a lot as a kid in school, but at least I could go home. It would stop at some point.
Yeah.
You're still bullied as an adult, Michael.
Oh, yeah. But I can still go home, and I'll stop at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually a really interesting point that you just said. It stops when you go home. Nowadays,
it doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah, like I didn't even think of that.
I'm pretty sure Michael's wife doesn't bully him. So. I think you misunderstood.
No, but I agree with you. I think it should be monitored. And just to be clear, like I'm not anti-social media. In fact,
Me
like
neither.
social media puts me,
right.
gives me a job. But I will say it's incredibly not risky, but it's just the information that can get out there. It truly is like once it's out there, it's out there. Like I don't know if you guys watched Clickbait on Netflix.
So, I saw it. It's popular.
Are you gonna watch it, or can I spoil it?
Go ahead, spoil it.
Okay, so like
Spoiler alert.
But basically, like, this guy, he got hired at like a new school, and his credentials got stolen, and the person who stole his credentials created all these dating apps for him using his image, using his name, and then he, like, whoever was imitating him basically resulted in someone committing suicide, a girl committing suicide, because the person imitating him was like, oh, I don't care about you anymore, and the girl, whatever. And as a result, like, the girl who committed suicide, her brother went after this person and kidnapped him and then posted it online. And he was like, at X amount of views, like, this person, I will kill this person, to do like as he did to my sister. And so it came to a point where, like, A, he wasn't even the person responsible, like, his credentials got stolen, and B, because so many people were curious, everybody started watching, and the views were skyrocketing. So they reached the amount of views that would kill him in minutes. So even though social media can be very beneficial, and, you know, we all go on our phones to, like, look up something real quick, it can be really dangerous really fast. So I would say, like, try to mitigate it or monitor it, as hard as that may be.
What do you think, Sophia?
So what I think is that we have access to social media at any minute or any second of our time. So we can control it. Like, if let's say bullying happens, for example, I know this may sound very broad, but all you gotta do is just shut off your computer or phone, or just not engage with people and move on with it, because it's something that is wasting your time, and it shouldn't impact you in a way that, you know, you should deal with real life problems, like with family or, you know, actual people in person. Because, you know, it could be a bot you're arguing with, like they don't have a brain. Something like that.
Okay, so let me be devil's advocate here. It's way easier than said than done, honestly. And then the other thing to keep in mind is the vast majority of people, I mean, the numbers out there are staggering. I didn't bring them with me. But when I was researching for this, the number of people addicted to social media and media in general is ridiculous. I mean, think about your personal life. How many people binge Squid Game or whatever the latest Netflix is? That's 8 hours of your life that you're just giving away and you're not getting back. I mean, video games amongst young men is also a big problem. They sit there for hours slashing and hacking and leveling up on Assassin's Creed. You know, they start playing at 7 p.m. at night, and then they look up and the sun's out and then it's 6 a.m. in the morning. That's 11, 12 hours you're not getting back. And what have you done? What have you accomplished with that time that God has given you? And remember, you don't have a lot of time on this earth. Yeah, you've leveled up to level 12 on Assassin's Creed, and you've unlocked the Dagger of Mythocles. But what's the point after that?
How do you know this?
No comment. The point is this: like, everything in moderation. Social media is a tool. Video games are a tool. You should be filtering. Yeah, all of that. Okay, agreed. But what happens when you're addicted? What happens when you can't stop? What happens when the drug of choice is so readily available and it costs very little, and the immediate negative effects are not very obvious, right? They're not very obvious. And you're slowly, it's like the frog that gets put in a pot that it's just a normal amount of water, put the frog in the pot. Frog's like, hey, I love this. Slowly turn up the heat, and the frog thinks, oh, wait, you know, this feels great. This heat, I love this heat. And before you know it, the frog's dead.
I've never heard that analogy.
You haven't?
I did not know about it.
Is this something
I've heard of it.
Is this something from our generation?
This is a generational guy.
I got it.
She got it. She's an old soul.
What pot?
Yeah, but the point there is, like, when you're submerged in it, you don't realize how poisonous it is until it's too late, until you're dead, right? So what do we do?
Just don't do it.
Turn it off.
It takes some level also of self-awareness.
Yeah.
You know, how like, you know, Theo, you kind of mentioned, like, the quote unquote addiction portion of it. How does someone recognize that they're hooked on something, or how do they recognize that they are drawn to something and it really consumes a majority of their day? It's self-awareness. You know, am I able to identify where my attention is going, what my thoughts and my my urge to click on my phone and open it or check social media or watch a show or whatever it may be? How controlling are these things, or how much are these things controlling my life? You know, and again, it's a level of self-awareness. Sometimes it's very easy to just give into these things because it's entertaining. You know, we watch reality TV, it's entertaining. We can judge other people's lives and say, oh, you know, oh my goodness, how are they doing this, and this? And, you know, or we're just behind the screen just watching, or reading the news, or not reading watching the news, or reading an article, or going on social media. It's very easy for us to get drawn into things, but how much self-awareness do we have to recognize that these things start consuming our lives and taking over, and we don't, you know, we've given into these things, you know?
It's when you realize that it sucks away your joy and it sucks away your happiness, and you realize that, wait, what am I doing?
Yeah.
There are times where I find myself just arguing with family for no apparent reason, and I realize my joy has been sucked out because I spend all this time on this stuff that just isn't meaningful.
And you know what could, I think this could help answer some of the questions. What could help with this is filling your time with productive things. Finding a habit, finding a routine that gets you out of the funk of staying home, of being on your phone, of being bored and needing entertainment like Netflix or TV or reading articles or whatnot. Granted, don't get me wrong, it's good to keep up with the news, but when the news starts consuming your life to the point where it's controlling what you know, how you're thinking and your attention to it, that's where, again, it comes back to that addiction portion that you were saying, Theo. It starts taking over God's place in your life. And, you know, I'm not going to get into God's place and, you know, replace these things with God and whatnot. But, you know, start filling your time with other things. Find a new hobby, take a walk, go to the gym, you know, become more interpersonal with other humans, you know.
Yes.
Tell someone to go out for coffee, grab dessert, you know, let's go to a French bakery. I don't know, you know, do something, you know, become more active. I think nowadays our generation, or our times now have become so lazy because we can get our entertainment from sitting on our couch or in our bed. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to go down the block and meet up with our friends to have fun. You know, we don't have to call them up on a landline and be like, hey, are you available to go ride your bike or go to the park or whatever, you know. So unfortunately, our entertainment is right in front of us. So get out, you know, do something. Stop being lazy, you know.
And stop being surrounded by all this man-made stuff. That's part of our issue too.
I want to add on to that, to what Justine said. So this might sound kind of sad, but the more time we dedicate our time to like social media and just distracting ourselves, there could be a family member that's, let's say they're already dead or passed away, and we didn't realize that because we're so emotionally attached to something else. And then once we hear the news, all of a sudden we just like break down and we just don't realize what's happening. Yep.
Yeah.
Way to bring the party down.
Yeah, sorry.
Like,
that's just me.
What's wrong with you? I mean,
it's opposite day.
But you know what? That is honestly one of the most powerful things I think that was said is this table is what you just said. We are distracting ourselves. What are we distracting ourselves from? Why are we so afraid? God.
Wasn't there a book, Distracting Ourselves to Death?
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
It's a good title.
If there isn't a book, it is what most people are doing. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say spending like quality time with other humans, like your family, like the things that are important, that matter.
Yeah.
Like
Earth is a ticking time bomb.
yeah.
Okay.
Again? You're gonna keep bringing us down?
right now.
I saw this picture comparing, I think it was like some form of public transportation back in the 50s compared to nowadays. And it was like back in the 50s, people were reading a book or interacting or talking with each other. And, you know, in current, like the 2020s or modern day world, everyone's on their phones. Everyone is glued on their phones. No one knows how to talk to people anymore.
Our society, I was just gonna say, our society is so awkward nowadays. Like, it sometimes it's like, why are you talking to me? You know, and it's like, I just said good morning. Like,
and it's so sad to see that we've become so drawn into feeding ourselves with this external form of entertainment that we can't become entertaining humans. You know, we can't be social, talk to people, say jokes, you know, be fun.
I mean, if we're going to go back to the origin of all of this, right? Most people think that, you know, this is just the culture. It's the herd mentality. There's no grand engineer behind it. It's wrong. There is a grand engineer. And it's been the same engineer that's been working on man's demise since day one, right? It's the devil since the Adam and Eve days, right? Isolationism is key to his strategy. He must be able to isolate us in order for us to be easy pickings, right? It's when that, you know, the parable in the Bible of the sheep that goes astray. What would have happened if the shepherd did not go and pursue and look for that sheep and leave the 500 Eventually, a wolf would have found that sheep and devoured it, right? Isolationism is a very difficult task to achieve because God made us in his image. We are social, just like God looks for connections with us, right? He's always searching for that ability to connect with us, right? It's the same thing with us. We're always searching for that ability to connect with others. Well, then how do you isolate them? And so the devil thought really hard, and he said, no, very easy. I'll virtualize it. I'll make them think. I'll give them the external effects of connecting with folks, but the actual connect, right? The deception, the actual engagement with someone, I'm going to poison it, right? And I'm going to take the beautiful thing that God connected, which is social interactions and relationships with folks, and I'm going to reduce it to some very basic likes and dislikes and comments. And if I can do that, right, then I can pick them off one by one.
Well, I mean, look at the pandemic as the prime example of this. This wasn't even, you can't even say that the devil made this. Let's just say the government mandated that everybody stay home. And look at the depression and anxiety and mental health rates, how much it declined. You know, people's mental health got so bad because, like you were saying, Theo, we were designed to be interactive humans who talk to each other, socialize with each other, you know, interact with each other. And during the pandemic, we were all forced to stay home, not interact with one another. And look at what it did. You know, we don't even have to say that the devil virtualized everything. We can see it, just from the pandemic in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, the devil is Chinese, Wuhan.
It started.
Yeah, we're probably going to cut that part.
Yes,
editors, cut that part out.
COVID's the devil confirmed.
Yeah, apparently. The other thing is desensitization. What did I miss? I can't see anything with this mask. I have no peripheral vision.
He said COVID's the devil confirmed.
I was thinking Mephisto confirmed.
I thought you were saying the Chinese people.
No.
Everyone's confused.
Never mind.
Next.
All right, delete this. Cut this whole thing. The other thing is desensitization, right? If I expose them to some outrageous sin, but I don't do it right out the bat, right? Just little by little by little, eventually, just like the frog, they won't realize that this is sin. In fact, maybe it'll be part of their culture, part of their belief system, and that's what he's done in the media. I mean, 10 years in our time, you know, people that were gay hid in the closet. It was a negative thing to be gay, right? And look how quickly that changed. And the way that the devil did it is the media, like the teaching systems, the Hollywood, all of that all of a sudden got infiltrated, if you will, by people that were, believed in homosexuality or practiced homosexuality.
Well, there were shows where there were funny gay people and you could relate to it.
Yeah.
I mean, Superman came out yesterday.
Yeah, he was gay.
Superman, or he came out as bi.
Yeah, something or other.
It doesn't make a difference. Either way. And a whole generation of kids now have grown up thinking that this is okay. And it's the same thing with materialism. In our day, materialism, I mean, people that were very materialistic, they were the butt of every joke, in high school. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, this is what you think success is? It was still there and it was getting worse. But even if you go back further, materialism was not something that people flaunted around. And people that did that actually said, hey, this guy's a show off, right? Now, showing off is the thing. This is what you should be doing. Like, if you paid $100 for a half-sleeve T-shirt that says Supreme, you should be wearing that T-shirt everywhere you go, right? If you got limited edition Yeezys, you should be wearing those Yeezys everywhere you go because that's what gives you status. That's what gives you women. That's what gives you power. So this idea of desensitization is the other tool that he's used against us. I think the last thing, if you want to break down the enemy's ability, is redefining morality. This one's probably the most dangerous. They're all dangerous, but that one's probably the most dangerous. Redefining what is okay and what is not, what is acceptable and what isn't, in a way that's systemic, in a way that now, if you were to stand up and say, guys, I don't think this is right. I don't think what we're doing is right.
Well, that's your truth. That's not my truth.
Exactly. Like, yo, listen. You do you, I do me, right? As long as we're not hurting each other, right? We good, right? And if you're trying to tell me what to do, who are you? You're nobody. They're not really saying that to you. They're saying that to God. They're saying, listen, I don't need you. You are annoying. You're trying to make me do all these things. I'm going to live my life. It's the same. We talked about it last time. It's the same sin, since Adam and Eve, since Lucifer. It's all the same sin. When you are up against an enemy like that, it is very, very difficult to change. Very difficult to change. But the answer is actually hidden in the message of Jesus Christ. But nobody really wants to pay attention to it. And that's what's negative. That's what's destructive. Because the message of Jesus Christ is, you are made in my image. You are special. You are beautiful. You are perfect. And as long as you stay do your Father's business, right? As long as you're with me, as long as you're following, you don't need any of this stuff. right? You don't need any of it. And we don't get that because we don't believe in it. Going back to, when we're young and we hear the stuff in Sunday school, but it doesn't register. It doesn't get processed, right? It doesn't become ingrained in who we are. It's always something external to us. How many people actually understand what it means to be a child of God, what it means to be a son of God? How many people actually incorporate that into their identity and say, as a son of God, my father being the king, I can't participate in this. I can't possibly do it, right? No, we become herds. We become part of the herd. The herd is all going this way. So you know what? Let's be sheep and just all go this way, right? But our Lord said what? Be wise as servants and innocent as doves. Wise as serpents and innocent as doves. A serpent is a natural predator. A serpent wants to be left alone to do its own business. But if someone comes at it, it's going to attack. It's the same thing. If someone comes at you and is trying to change your belief system, is trying to change who you are, you resist. You don't just go with the herd. And if they say, oh, look at this person, it's a snake, ew, disgusting, like get away from us, that should have no effect on who you are and what you are, right? But at the same time, be innocent as doves. And the last thing I want to say on this, that's probably one of the saddest things that's happened in the 21st century, the death of innocence. I mean, we have very young kids who are no longer being innocent, who have boyfriends or girlfriends, who are talking about sex, who are participating in some really awful behavior, right? The death of innocence. The innocence no longer lives in today's society.
I think also it comes down to living with a purpose. What have we put on this? What have we been put on this earth for? And how are we living up to what our purpose is? Are we wasting our time comparing ourselves to others, allowing society to fill our hearts and our minds with garbage that that they're telling us to live by? Or are we actually trying to live a purposeful life, one with meaning, one with love and sharing and serving with one another? It's easier said than done, but I feel like when somebody finds something that they're passionate about and they are able to discover their purpose, there's no stopping them. People who find their passions, who find their purpose, they find what they want, they find what their strengths are, and they go for it. There's no stopping them. And I think that that's something powerful that, if only every single person could discover that within themselves, this world would be a much better place.
I believe that once you truly find yourself, you'll be able to apply God within your life. Like if it's something, you can get creative with but whatever you broadcast or whatever you do, you can apply God into your life and make it into a positive thing and just keep going. It's a journey. So there's going to be obviously ups and downs. You can overcome it with time and applying your, the fruits of life into your productivity and everyday tasks. So
I don't think you can find yourself unless you're looking through God's eyes.
Period.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and my journey, my personal journey, I think a lot of what you just said, Sophia, actually clicks. At some point, you have to wake up. At some point, you have to realize that if I continue to abide by this belief system that the world is trying to get me to subscribe and like and Patreon to, then all I'm going to do is exhaust myself mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, because it's a rat race. It's a rat race. There's always going to be someone doing better. There's always going to be someone looking better. There's always going to be someone funnier, blah, 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 blah. And if I subscribe to this, this capitalistic social market, then I will never be good enough. I will never be at peace. I will never be happy enough. Until you wake up and realize that all of this is deception, is lies, and simply by existing and subscribing to it, you are actually pushing this agenda forward. Whether you agree with it or not, you're pushing this agenda forward so it affects others, and you're giving it a platform and you're giving it space in your life. Until you realize that this is not a life you want to live, you really have no hope. No hope. It isn't until you realize this is all garbage and you cut it out completely. Wow, the devil's working overtime. Mm-hmm. It isn't until that you're working very, 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 very closely with your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and you kind of get tunnel vision on Him, and you say that, you know what, who is Jesus? I've been in the Sunday school system for 16 years, and I still don't know who Jesus Christ is. Until you focus on Him and you read His Word and you make Him part of your identity and you accept your true identity, which God has given you, not the one that the world is trying to force on you where everyone's the same. If you accept his identity, then you have no inheritance with him. And when you do that, you realize something. I am a prince. I'm trying to be a G over here, but in reality, I'm a prince up there, right? I am a princess, right? And that's not to be lauded around everyone, but more importantly, it's what God gives you inside your heart, which is confidence. Do you know who the most confident people are that I've met in my life? The people that grasp hold to God and are very strong in their identity and are very strong in their service and their prayer life. You can't sway these people. Like, you can put a gun to their head and say, I'm going to shoot you right now, and be like, Habibi, I love you, I forgive you, and whatever happens, just don't let this ruin your life. Just you do better.
Martyrs.
Exactly.
Right.
Is there a better definition of confidence than people that say, like, do whatever you want to me, but I will never leave him? And by the way, I'm not angry. I'm good. I just hope that after this that you'll find the peace that I have too.
Imagine.
Where in today's society do you see that? It doesn't exist without God, right?
Right.
How do you get to that point? I think you're going to disagree with me. I'm against social media. Everyone here is about social media. They're like, oh, there's a little bit of it in your life. I get it. I respect it. Personally, kill it. Kill it. If you are strong enough, remove it. Remove that devil from your life, right? Defeat the demon. You know what I mean?
I don't disagree with you. I feel like I'm just not strong enough to do it. But I don't disagree.
I find like if you can develop the self-control to not let it control your life, then go for it. But it's so easy to push the self-control aside and get drawn into it. That's the problem. So like you're saying, Theo, it's if you want to kill it and cut it out, that's the most effective way. Otherwise, put a time limit on the app. You can put a time limit and
go camping.
It's funny because you're reminding me
go
of
camping with your family.
Yeah, definitely.
What era are you from? You're talking about landlines. You're talking about camping. Like, are you?
She's the one that said camping, not me.
Okay.
Don't do that.
Changing up your vision there.
Going
Theo.
back,
productivity.
Going back a few generations, I was just watching recently an old Twilight Zone episode, which reminded me of this.
Cringe.
Cringe.
We were forced to watch that in 7th grade. I couldn't.
And this guy, his wife took him on a vacation to Las Vegas. And he was like, why are you taking me here? This is all sinful. This is all bad. All these people are wasting their money. And someone forces him to put a coin in a slot machine. And that was the end of it. He was like, this is immoral. I'll never do it. And then he just pulls it once and he gets hooked. And he's just like, no. I just have to put in another coin because because this is bad, and I'm just this is how I'm getting it back, and he just was to the point where he literally went crazy over the slot machine, and the slot machine led to his death.
That's another thing. Like, it can become an addiction, and then that's like a whole other topic. Yep.
Squid
Games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. What are you laughing at?
Because I have no idea what Squid Games is.
Yeah. Well, it's I'll tell you.
Nothing up.
Actually, you don't want to know. But anyway, I think love is probably the one thing that's missing from all of our lives, and it's the one thing that you cannot live without. And there are all these aberrations. Is that the right word? SAT?
Yes.
Mr. SAT?
Yes.
So these aberrations, right? These corruptions of, hey, this is self-love. Love yourself, girl. Okay, can I ask you something? If a woman is people are gonna hate me after this, but you don't know who I am, so it's good. But people tell these women that are way overweight, that are not living healthy, that are just sleeping with whoever they want, and they're on the social media, and then people are telling them, you do you, girl, girl power. Yeah, this is the way you have no idea what you're telling this person. You're telling them that diabetes and obesity is okay. You're telling them that unprotected sex and sleeping with whoever you want is perfectly okay. You're telling them that you can define yourself by what others think of you. You're telling them that at the end of the day, all this deception and all this hurt in your life, you can drink it away or do drugs or whatever. Just do you, girl. This is the advice we're giving them. And it's the same thing with guys. We're telling guys that what makes you a man is your body count. Right, the higher it is, the better. In order for you to be a successful man, you need to lie, cheat, and steal because everyone else is doing it. We're telling them that if you don't look a certain way, if you don't have certain muscles, then you are a garbage. You are a beta male, as the red pill community likes to call it. Right? This is what we're telling people to do. This is what society tells people to do, and it uses media as its mouthpiece. Right? versus God. God says, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is that you love me, you do my will, and you help others. And you love others the same way. In fact, love your enemy. Can you go and serve your enemy? Can you do that? And if you do that, that's it. You're good. If you walk that path, if you try to do good in your life, you don't have to worry about the food. You don't have to worry about the clothes, the car, who you're going to end up with, your job. I've got you. I will do all of these things for you. And it really is true. Those people in your life that are really walking with God, ask them, do you worry about tomorrow? I'll try not to. That's what they're going to say. Do you really care about, this or that, or how much money you have in your bank? I try not to. No one's going to tell you, no, I don't, because that's not true. But they're going to tell you, I try not to, because I know God's got me. And you know what? Their life is probably way more healthy, way more complete than any of these people that have all of the things that society has told you. I mean, has anyone seen Post Malone lately? The guy looks like he's dying. I mean, honestly, he's got all the girls, he's got all the money, he's got all the bags, but his lyrics and what he's talking about and his interviews, he looks miserable. How many of these rappers and artists have killed themselves? Kate Spade, Lil Xan, all these people, right? Because they get to the top, they believe in this gospel, this false gospel, and they get it all, and they're like, where's my happiness? Where's my peace? Yeah. And they end up, God forbid, right? So what does that tell you about walking this path versus walking this path? I just wish that people really understood what self-love is, because self-love is not selfishness. Self-love is realizing that you are completely incomplete without the love of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm. And accept
Amen.
it.
Amen. I love that.
What do you guys think?
We're gonna get canceled after that, but I agree.
I mean, half the studio is falling apart because the devil disagrees with everything we're saying. Let's kind of move on to the final topic here about people that are incomplete. We've already talked about people that are incomplete, people that feel that they're missing something inside of them. Maybe they're listening right now. Maybe they've actually tried to pursue this doctrine and it's not fulfilling. Maybe, they're just really sad. They're really depressed. Maybe they're self-harming. Maybe they've considered things that they wouldn't otherwise do it. Maybe they're at a point where, I think you said it, they get to a point where they're beginning to self-realize that, hey, this is not working out for me. What advice do we have for them?
I would find a support group or just people that have the same type of problems or just anything in general to just talk about it and, express yourself in a way that you can find understanding so you don't feel lost.
I feel like it would be hard to find a support group against social media, though. I think it's a really good.
You could join us anytime.
I think it's a really good idea because if you're going, you can hold each other accountable. But I'm trying to think, like, if I were to say that to my friends, would anybody actually be on board, or would it kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like you can just do something that it's not gonna take it away forever, but like in a way where you're not. It's like indirect, but in a way you're trying to prove a point to them that, you don't really need social media to do interactions. You can just do, let's say, camping somewhere that has no signal.
She's sold on the camping.
Yeah, I just love camping. It's so fun. You should try it out. But it's something fun to do, and you get to open yourself into nature and just appreciate what God made in front of you, and you're not taking the time to pay attention to what possibilities you can find within nature or anything besides nature. It could be something else. It doesn't
Absolutely.
have to be nature.
Or do a social media fast.
Yeah.
Just I know a few people who for Lent just turn it off. They either deactivate their accounts or just take the thing off of their phone. And one thing that could be helpful is, okay, let's say you decide, okay, I can't completely come off of social media. Well, you can delete it from your phone, and then you'd have to access it from your computer, and then that limits the amount of time that you're spending on it. That you haven't completely cut it off, but it's now you can manage it. It's not staring you in the face constantly.
Right, less accessible.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to reset, take time off.
Detox.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of few things that you can do. I think I like a lot of what was said, especially like if you're addicted to social media, then okay, that's fine. How about then you switch the people you're subscribed to, the people that you're listening to, the podcasts that you're listening to, and subscribe to Sinners Anonymous or all of these other Orthodoxy or Christian or Bishop Yusuf has a great channel. I mean, whatever you got to do, right? If you're addicted to social media, then replace it with at least some Christian stuff, with some things that are gonna fulfill you and bring you close to God. Because eventually, just listening, I mean, There's a story about the who was
Frog.
There was a young man in college in Egypt, and he said he went to his father confessed. He said, "Abuna," and I think it was Abuna Mekhil Kabir, and he told him, you know, I want to live a good life, but I can't. Like all this, you know, my roommates are playing Kulthum, and they're always going out to Ehwa and all these things. That like, you know, how do I desire God, but I don't know how to do it. So Abuna Mekhil Kabir goes to him. Do you have a tape player? He goes, yeah. He goes, go to your dorm, and when you're just in your room by yourself, or when you're listening, just play the Odes or play, you know, whatever you can find, maybe some sermon or whatever. Just leave it in the back. Even if you're not paying attention, even if you're not concentrating, just leave it in the back, just playing like that. Even when you're sleeping, just keep it going. And don't even pay any attention to it. Just go about your business. And the boy said, well, I don't understand, but fine. Okay, so he went and he did it. And over time, because one, he was open to it. He had opened his soul up to God. But he wasn't actually doing anything actively other than putting this stuff in the background. He felt a change in his life. He felt more peace. He was slow to wrath. He was absorbing parts of the Bible. People would come to him and ask him, and he would give them advice. And he's like, where did that come from? I don't even remember, right? The Holy Spirit essentially descended upon him because he wasn't on social media surfing Instagram models or doing all that. Back then, they didn't have that stuff. But the point is this. Even when you change the ambiance around you, right, you allow the Spirit to come down. Because mark my words. They're not even my words, but believe me when I tell you, if you can see with the spiritual eye, in this room, as we speak, there are angels and there are devils. Right, as many saints have told us, and they're constantly in a battle to find us and to fight for us and to win our souls. And every time, you know, you're on Instagram doing something you shouldn't be doing, or on the internet doing something you shouldn't be doing, and every time you're actually reading your Bible or praying or doing something, one side is winning and one side is losing, and you decide who wins and who loses.
It's funny that you say this because I've been so convicted about this lately, and the one thing that keeps ringing in my head is, what is our oath that we take in baptism? We were all so young that, like, we were babies. We didn't know. But if you have attended a baptism recently, you'll see what you do is, I renounce you, Satan, and all of your evil powers and all of your wickedness and all of your wicked deeds. And then you turn to the other side, to the east, and you say, I accept you, Christ. And that's, I believe. And so we have to decide which side. There's a battle going on, and we have to decide which side are we on. And sometimes we're traitors to the one side or the other. And when we participate in stuff that is good and is beneficial and holy and pure and uplifting to others, then we are participating with the angels. But when we're participating in stuff that is immoral and taints our souls and taints other people's souls and brings them down, then we're participating with the demons. And so often I find myself asking myself, which side, this thing that you're about to do, which side is it? Which side are you fighting on? Are you fighting on the winning side? Because we know in the end, the victory's already been won. Christ has won. Christ and the angels have won. But which side are you fighting on?
Vanity and grasping.
Well said, Michael.
For the Lord God, the omnipotent, reigneth.
They have no idea what you and I are talking about. Go ahead.
I just said vanity and grasping of the wind. You know, there's a verse that talks about how
St. Paul.
Yeah, how toiling all day can get you. You know, you're always doing this, you're always doing that, but the sun will rise from the east, set on the west. But you know, when we focus on just surviving and not living, we lose our purpose, you know, and it's all vanity and grasping of the wind. You know, you're trying to grasp the wind, but you don't grab anything, you know.
Yeah, and don't fall for the deception. Okay, don't fall for the deception. Hey, why do you like that rap song? I just like that beat. Do you understand what's being said in that rap song? Have you looked at the lyrics? I saw something crazy the other day. My wife and I had an argument over should we take the kids to Disney or not? And she's anti-Disney. She's like, oh, there's so many negative, like, demonic things at Disney. I'm like, you're crazy. It's Disney. And she goes, oh yeah, go do the research. So I went, I did the research. Have you ever looked at the lyrics to A Whole New World?
Yep.
I haven't.
Okay.
Oh yeah, apparently it's like a
Yeah.
kind of like rings around the rosy, like some dark history thing.
Yeah.
And you can excuse those people because they lived in dark times, like the plague. Okay, so they had dark humor, but these Disney folks, a whole new world. When you read the lyrics, it's a Protestant video. I'll send it to you guys. It's a Protestant video of this guy who breaks down. He was in the Hollywood industry and he knows all about how that industry works, and he breaks down the lyrics to a whole new world. And what the whole new world is basically telling children is, no one to tell us what to do. We can do whatever we want to do. Come and join me. And he breaks it down and he brings Eden and the script that the devil told them, and he lines it up line by line.
Stop.
It is crazy. I couldn't believe it. I was like, no, this is just a coincidence. So I go on and I read other stuff, doing other research, right? And what you find, like even in The Lion King, they're drawing human body parts in the mist, in the stars and whatnot. I'm like, there's no way this is true.
I saw that.
And then they show you exactly how it was done with the animations, but the frame rate is so quick you don't catch it unless you freeze frame. And I'm like, this can't be true. The point is this: if it's not from God, the devil has infected it. Because the only thing the devil cannot touch is that which comes from God, such as the sacraments, right? If it's not from God, it's got evil present in it. And one of the most crazy things is, I went down a YouTube rabbit hole after that conversation, and it was like 3 a.m. in the morning, and I'm watching these rappers, these former rappers. These are tough men. These are like men from the streets, right? And they're talking about, why have you never gone mainstream? They're on this podcast. They're like, dog, if you don't know the answer to that, then you have no idea how this set up. And the interviewer's like, what do you mean? He goes, for you to join them, to get to that level, they ask some things from you. And the guy's like, what do you mean? And they look at each other like, this guy just doesn't know it. He doesn't know what they're talking about. And he starts talking about how in order to get to a certain level, they sodomize you. They bring you into a room and they sodomize you. We need to put an age restriction on this episode. But they actually sodomize you and they record it and they use it against you. And then this guy couldn't believe it. He's like, this is not true. He goes, oh yeah? And he proceeds to share stories of things that he saw, parties that he's gone to, where it's almost like the Faustian deal. In Faust, there's an ancient story between a man that wanted power, and so he made a deal with the devil, and he pricked his hand and did it with blood in order to get that level. Well, it's the same thing in Hollywood. So I'm like, there's no way this is true. These guys are making it up. So then I type in the search bar on YouTube, and then you go to Reddit. And story after story after story of the same thing. If you're a woman, you have to give yourself. If you're a man, you have to give yourself. They record it. They have this against you, and then they let you become one of these stars. And then you start thinking that there's this one interview where and these people are not connected. They're not connected at all. Rappers, artists, they don't even seem like they talk to each other in the same community, and they all have the same story of how you have to give part of yourself in order to achieve this fame and this greatness, right? And so one person is talking about how, why do you think all these people are trying to kill themselves? If you listen to their lyrics and some of the lyrics of their songs, they're talking about this abuse, and it just goes right over our head. And the perfect example of this is Lil Nas X. Okay, so the story of Lil Nas X is this. And then parents, if you hear this and your kid is listening or likes Lil Nas X, you need to be aware of this. So his first big hit was what? Country Road, right? Mm-hmm. Old Town Road. There's no cursing. It's a really good beat. I mean, it was brought up in all these social medias that this is good for kids. This is just about a guy on his horse and he's just having a good time and everything's great, right? And so all these parents were like, this is great. And then they're playing at kids' birthday parties and Old Town Road, like this is the big thing. And when you listen to it, there's nothing wrong with it, right? And there is no subversive text as far as one can tell, right? So all these kids, right, become, Lil Nas X is cool. We like him. He's a young guy. He's good. He doesn't curse. First rapper that doesn't curse in his songs. So he builds up this following among all these little kids. And then what? Then we start getting some crazy stuff, some lyrics, some music videos that are just very corrupt. Until finally he's pole dancing on Satan himself, and he's cursing, and he's saying all these horrible, horrible things. But by then it's too late. You let your kids subscribe to this guy. You let your kids become fans because you thought he was PG. But what happened is he released a shoe of the devil or something like that. Like he took a Nike shoe and said for Satan. And then he's literally in his music video, he's pole dancing half naked on Satan, on someone that's playing the actor of Satan. And you've exposed your kids to that. So don't try to tell me that this whole thing, there's no design, there's no evil behind it. It's just people who are doing themselves. No, Habibi, no, Habibi. There is a design. And you are being blind if you think that just while you're driving, you put on some music and some rap music. It has no effect on your soul, has no effect on your spirit, has no effect on the spiritual war that is happening with you. You are being corrupted whether you realize it or not. You're just choosing to be asleep. You're just choosing to be selfish.
So something to add on to that, this is related to a course that I took in college, which is related to gangs. So there's some gangs that, these are former people, like there was an article that I read about former gangs talking about how they have to do certain things to be accepted and to be in the ranks of, you know, being a gangster, for example. So they would, you know, have it on record where they either had to, let's say for the female side, they had to expose themselves to the male for them to at least be one of the dogs, let's say. And they would feel like exploited in a way where they did something and then there's a chance that they didn't get something in return. So it was like oh, do we like her? And it's like a group vote. And then for the males, they either had to get like a hard beat down for them to be accepted as a male, and they can withstand like some other former gang member would attack. They'd be able to do all that stuff. So it's something we can take our soul away from in return of something that might not be granted. But we know that God, if you go through his way and accept him, he'll give you anything that you know, that you've been wanting for your whole life or needed. So
I can tell you firsthand the damaging effects of gang initiations. I've seen teenage boys come in completely beat up, and they will never tell you that that's what happened. But we knew that was definitely what was going on. They'll make up some story. I'll never tell you.
Yeah. I mean, nothing's free in this world. Nothing is free in this world except salvation and love from Jesus Christ. That is the only thing that is truly free. Everything else has a price.
And acceptance.
What was that?
And acceptance. I was just adding to it.
Oh, okay.
you're a leader.
Exactly. Right. All right. We are past an hour, so it is closing time, everybody. Closing time. We're going to go around the room. You're going to talk about what you took away. What's the message that you want to leave? You know, when you think fondly upon the time that you had here, what's the single most important thing in the summary, the footnote, the cliff notes that you would share with others? And we'll start off with Justine.
I think, you know, find value in this world and don't let the world give you the value of life. I think it's important that you understand, you know, what your purpose in life is, how important it is for you to enjoy this process while you're here on life without having the world corrupt your mind and, you know, aimlessly go for something or search for something or try to become something of this world that won't give you the happiness that God will.
Raphael.
I'm gonna say, like, take time for yourself, help yourself, like, go through this journey of self-identity and self-worth. And it doesn't, like, you don't have to do this through social media. Like we've said so many things today, like going camping or just as simple as changing the ambiance around you. Listen to the word of God instead of like these rap songs that have no meaning.
Mikey.
So basically what we've all been saying, just think, stop, smell the roses, see what we're going. Don't continue to live like a zombie dead on the inside, like just keep wanting more and more and more, and you don't even know what it is that you want. And we stop and you focus on whatever is pure, whatever is holy, whatever is noble. And when you think about these things, and when you get out of all of the man-made structures that we've put ourselves in, and just go out in nature, just go out on the beach, go walk and see the beauty that God has created. And it'll remind you that God, who created all this beautiful stuff, also created you. And that is where the joy really happens.
Karen.
I think I learned today that social media can be, I guess, a deeper, a more intense addiction than I thought it was. And even though it's not going away anytime soon, and it's still our job to moderate ourselves and to kind of limit ourselves when it comes to social media so that we don't reach that level of addiction that becomes really hard to track back from.
Sophia.
something we can take out of from this is that I believe that with the time that we use for social media, we can use that with God and reach that same level with Him. Take some time for isolation with God, talk to Him, you can chat with Him, interact, talk about what you've experienced throughout the day instead of sharing it on social media. You don't know if people will care or not, but God will always listen to you and stay up with whatever you have in your life.
So the story of social media and the concept of social media and media in general is not foreign to the Bible. There's actually a story in the Bible that talks about exactly the influence of others, and that is the story of the prodigal son. Just keep in mind that there's a part of that's actually missing. It's not in the Bible, and that part is when the prodigal son went to his father and said, "Give me my inheritance, I want to leave." Do you think that happened overnight? Or do you think that even though this man was raised in the bosom of his father, in the protection of his father's house, he wasn't opening himself up to all these negative influences, to his friends? I mean, the Bible says the first thing he did when he got his money is he went to his friends and he started partying day and night. You think he just picked up these friends out of nowhere? No. Even though we're raised in the church, even though we are Christian, even though we're baptized, even though we go to liturgies and Sunday school, and maybe many of us even serve, we're not really God's children, are we? We don't allow ourselves to be. Because if we were God's children, we would subscribe to Him. We would, patronize Him. We would follow Him. But we don't. We allow all these negative influences in our lives, and we, unfortunately, allow them to run our lives at some point. And just like the prodigal son, we end up wasting our inheritance. You are the father of a very rich man. You are the son of a very rich man. You are the prince and the princess of the king. Your inheritance is much greater, and you don't have to wait until you go to heaven in order to get your inheritance. You can actually get an advance on it now. Why? Because the power of the Holy Spirit grants you so many blessings, so many gifts here on earth that not only enrich your life, but enrich the lives of those around you. Patience, love, intelligence, strength, all of the things, confidence, all of the things that we are so desperately looking for. We want to look for a shortcut in how to get, but there is no shortcut. If you really want those things, it's not about how much money you're going to make or how many people you're going to be with or how large your friend group is. It's about how much you draw closer to your Father in heaven and how much you look like Him, how much you want to be like Him. That is how you get there. And eventually, I pray that we all figure that out one day, just like the prodigal son did. But the interesting thing about that is even after the prodigal son figured that out, he didn't run home to his father. He was ashamed. He was ashamed. He realized the truth, and he realized he had wasted his life. He realized all these things that he had done, all this time he had spent with his friends was just a waste. Just like we should realize all the time we're spending on social media, on Netflix, on videos, on all these things, it's a waste. It's not getting us to our final destination, which is to be one with God on earth as in heaven. And so what he did was he went to a pig pen. And so that's the pig pen moment. That's the moment that we all need to get to. That's the moment where we need to come to our senses and realize, hey, wait a second. Why am I here? Why am I depressed? Why am I not confident? Why am I failing? Why do I feel so lost? Why do I have to feel like this when my Father can help me? My Father is everything that I need. And after that moment, he came in humility and he went to Christ and he went to his Father and he said, accept me back, but I don't deserve to be your son. Before he can even finish, God accepted him back. That's where we need to be. That's where we need to get. And here's probably the most interesting thing about it. That pig pen moment is different for all of us. It's not going to be the same for some of us. Some of us have to go on a 3-month long drug binge of shooting up heroin or whatever it is before we even realize that. Some of us, hopefully it's a lot less more serious, but it doesn't matter. None of it matters. All that matters is that's the moment where you come back to God and you run to him and you say, forgive me. And before you even finish, he's going to take you in his arms and he's going to bring you back to where you belong, which is in his Father's house. And that's the message we have for you today. If you haven't arrived at that moment, maybe it's time. So thank you so much for coming and listening to us and being there with us. We hope you, picked up something that's useful to you. If you have any questions or comments, hit us up on social media. If you're local to Delray Beach, please join us this Friday. Actually, I don't know when. Just look at our socials. You'll find out when. There's a delay in when we post these. And if you're not local, hit us up on social media. We're happy to help you. And remember our verse.
Have fervent love for one another, for love covers up a multitude of sins.
We love you. God loves you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.